Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unholy Mole's coffee stream, where we drink coffee and talk shit on creationists. I got Lizzie here with me today. I'm glad her link worked. And I also got Rise to Raise, if you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Hello. Uh, if y'all want, you can just call me Lee. I'm not going to give out my false name, obviously, but I feel safe giving out my middle name.
Oh, no, fair enough. Lee's your middle
Uh,
name? That's my middle name, too.
uh I was named after fifth-time great-grandpa. In fact, you might have heard of him. He was actually pretty significant in the Civil War.
Robert E. Lee?
Yep.
You would make you would get along good with my friend Matt. He's fucking a Robert E. Lee fucking
Oh,
groupie.
I, oh no, I'm not a big fan of him.
Well, he is because he's from Louis. He's not like I don't know. It's hard to describe. He's just proud of his heritage, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
I, I'm a
twice
German.
it's
I my mother. I'm a literally a first generation immigrant. Like my mom moved here from Germany. So,
uh,
but you don't see me sporting swastika armbands, so I don't know about that whole.
yeah, like
You
I'm a
know,
Joe. Yeah, like I'm a German Jew. You don't, and yet I'm an atheist.
right, right.
Like, heritage means very little to me.
Yeah, there's some things not to be proud of. I
Exactly.
mean, yes, my German was a soldier in the German army. Yes, he was a member of the Nazi Party, and when I mean a member of the Nazi Party, I mean that was his political affiliation. Not he was like a high-ranking SS member or anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, but that was pretty much par for the course back then. I mean, it was either be a part of it. You were either part of the solution or part of the problem. You know what I mean?
um, Pretty much.
I
And
mean, so he
the
didn't have a whole,
solution was also a problem, but
yeah, and I mean there was still a lot of animosity between the French and the Germans because of Bastille, and the Germans thought they got the shitty in the stick when World War One ended, so there was a lot of anger still. Their economy sucked. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just giving you the historical
oh
background.
yeah,
So
I know
I understand.
the German era between World War One and Two is fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. But so like I said, yes, I'm German, but I mean I'm not. I mean, my grandpa was in a Russian a prisoner of war camp for 2 years, so I'm lucky he even came back at all.
Yeah, yeah. Glad to know he
But
did.
yeah, not. They had pretty rough camps.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah.
so the first article I want to look at is this is from Creation Ministries International. It's kind of like an AIG type. Uh, I mean, they're young Earth creationists. They pretty much believe along the same lines. And the first article I wanted to look at was Richard Dawkins is releasing an atheist children's book. I doubt it's actually an atheist children's book. I find it hard to believe that he's trying to convert children to atheism. What I think it is probably a science book that's teaching them something that isn't what they want to be taught. So they're just. It an atheist.
Yeah, it's. I don't really see Dawkins
No,
having the subtlety to write a children's book.
right.
Um, he simply his form of communication is it's simply not on par with that is able to communicate with a child very easily. Now,
Yeah,
I
listen.
very
Okay. All right. Here's the article. Listen to this. This is funny. Richard Dawkins is making this the news again. He has unveiled his plans to publish another book aimed at promoting atheism to children. And this is in
oh,
parentheses. He
Lizzie
has
left.
done this before with the magic of reality in parentheses. Description of this book are bizarre, underscoring the puerile, petty, and intentionally blasphemous nature of its contents. It is said to include gory depictions of biblical sacrifices and even of Jesus committing a murder. To anyone remotely educated on the Bible, the questions of why Dawkins would even think of depicting the sinless savior of humanity committing murder, and then it's in parentheses again, beyond the obvious aforementioned desire to commit blasphemy, is a real head scratcher. Well,
I'm sorry.
I'll stop right there
Can,
for now, and let's just start with
can we
this
just discuss
paragraph.
how much of a bullshit blasphemy is?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a
I
few things
mean,
I wanted to say.
I
For
mean,
instance,
yeah, but I mean, like blasphemy. That has got to be one of the weakest defenses you can form because it's literally just, hey, you're insulting my God, and he won't stop you, so I have to.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Blasphemy is literally anything that goes against what they think. That is literally blasphemy to them.
Just
What I find
once
hard to believe
once you
is
throw
that,
out blasphemy, I automatically just lose whatever modicum of respect I had for you just because it's like, oh, okay, you don't actually have an argument. You just want blind belief, and sorry, not everyone is gullible.
right, exactly. And
AJ.
what I don't believe is that uh, its contents is said to include gory depictions of biblical sacrifices and even of Jesus committing murder. I don't see Richard Dawkins putting gory depictions of biblical sacrifices in his book. And even if he did, he's not going to put things in there that aren't actually in the Bible. So if you're offended by your own biblical sacrifices, that's your fucking problem, nobody
Yeah,
else's.
it says more about the level of cognitive dissonance you have to have in order to think
Exactly.
is still a truly moral book if he's not even, because it's not like you can say he's making it up. The entire crux of the religion is it's literally a human sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a death cult, whether they want to believe that or not. It's a death
It,
cult.
it's it's
You
an it's an apocalyptic death cult
yeah. I mean, if you
because
think you're
the
yeah,
entire
go ahead.
point of the religion is to usher in the fucking apocalypse.
Exactly. Yeah, and they think that and I mean cannibalism is one of the rituals for Christ's sakes. I mean, if that isn't a death cult, I don't know what is. What is it? Transubstantiation? Is that how you? I
Uh,
can't even say that word.
the
Trans.
Eucharist,
Yeah, the Eucharist essentially.
transubstantiation,
Yeah.
transubstantiation, where eating the wafers when you put
Yeah.
them in
Yeah.
your mouth,
Exactly. The blood of
it
Christ and the
literally tones into the body of Christ. Or when you drink the grape wine, not even wine, even by the standards of the Bible, it literally tones into fucking human blood. Like, even though that literally doesn't happen, their belief says that is what happens, and I don't know how you can avoid getting human cannibal apocalyptic death cult from that.
right. Okay. So the article goes on to say this new effort comes across as more than a little hypocritical, coming from a man who has gone on record many times railing against the indoctrination of children by their religious parents. Apparently, anti religious indoctrination is perfectly fine, showing the double standard for what it is. Dawkins claims his book is not about indoctrinating children, but rather is about freeing them from religion. What could the distinction possibly be, though? How is it freeing a child to expose them to intentionally offensive, blasphemous imagery? That right there, that last sentence says exactly how they feel. It freeing them from religion is exactly that. Freeing from them from religion is telling them to think for themselves, not saying Jesus was real, the Bible is real, believe it or you're going to burn in hell. That is indoctrination. Telling someone, hey, that story might not be true. Open your own eyes, look into science, look around for yourself, and then make up your own mind. How is that indoctrination compared to either believe or burn?
Yeah, that's one thing I've never said. If you look at it, albeit what tiny shred of evidence there is in support of religion, or even you look at the overarching majority, but still find yourself subconsciously needing that crux of religion and find it like, well, this is where I found it. Let me fine, whatever. I'll at least accept that and have some respect for you that at least you looked at the evidence. But once you say, hey, you can no looking at evidence, you only believe this, or it is eternal damnation. I mean, even when the very first chapters of your religion book flat out say that gaining knowledge was evil, just that points at a, as Isaac Asimov once said, a cult of ignorance. It promotes actively rejecting learning in favor of just being told what to think. If that's not indoctrination, I frankly don't know what is.
Right, right. Okay, I'm gonna go on this. This it gets funny here. Okay, Dawkins' book shows us the battle for ideas is waged first and foremost with our children, which is absolutely true. Proverbs teaches us train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. It would seem that the atheistic Dyson, 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 Dyson Greek for bad messengers, are keen to try this bit of wisdom for themselves and pushing their atheism directly to our children. This book raises another rather odd question. Why would an atheist bother wasting time writing a book for children about the fact that there is no God in the first place? If Dawkins really disbelieves in God, why bother spending large quantities of time attempting to proselytize people with his insight that God is not real? Would this not be comparable to someone writing a children's book about how Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny are not real? If I recall correctly, Dawkins himself has compared belief in God to belief in Santa Claus. Yet, as of now, there do not appear to be any plans in the work for Dawkins to take up the topic of Santa Claus in a children's book. Why not? I suggest the real reason that Dawkins is not angry at Santa Claus. He is angry at the one true God and is venting that anger in every way he can think of. All right,
Why?
fucking okay.
Why?
First of all, okay. Got, Dawkins is not writing a book because I like how they always go back to atheists believe in God. They just don't. They don't want to admit it.
Yeah, like,
But they don't. They don't
or that we're
understand that.
angry at God.
Right.
Like, we're not misotheists.
Right.
That's the
Right.
word you want to apply to us. Misothe.
Right.
We believe in God, we're just angry at. No.
Right.
When someone
Exactly.
says that you're an atheist, it is by definition a lack of belief in a God or gods. If someone identifies as an atheist, they do not believe that the God exists. It can exist. Sure, I am willing to admit that a God or gods exist. I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't know everything.
Or could exist,
But
not does. Could exist.
yeah, my bad.
Could exist.
Uh,
Yeah,
had a
I
bit of a
agree.
booty
It
incident.
could.
But given the evidence I have seen, I don't find it viable. I don't find it meeting any level of a burden of proof. So I reject it. That is not me being angry. I am as angry at God as I am at freaking Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter.
Right. And the funny thing is like they don't get the difference. Oh, okay. Um, if Dawkins really disbelieves in God, why bother spending large quantities of time attempting to proselytize people with this insight?
Because
Well,
six and a
one
half
one would be
billion
because
people do believe in a god or gods.
yeah, what he's doing is he's not trying to proselytize atheism, so to speak. He's trying to proselytize science to make people think for themselves. They don't look at it that way. They're just like, oh, science is bad because it takes one card out from our house of cards and everything comes crumbling down. They don't look at it that way. They look at it as just an attack on Christianity. What he's attacking is unscientific mumbo jumbo, whether it be Christianity or Judaism or whatever the case may be, Hinduism, just plain old New Age woo like them fucking weirdos that think like. Have you ever heard of Flat Earth Paradise? This guy's weird. He like
Oh God.
calls them calls
Is
himself
he
Hermes.
is he about on par with D Mobile or Jainism or fucking
He's even worse than that,
odd
dude. This dude's
like
weird.
odd TV?
He like mixes all this weird shit together, like flat Earth mixed in with like bits of Hinduism and like the Earth is hollow and reptilians and
Wait, wait,
chakras.
wait,
Oh my god!
wait, wait,
Holy shit!
wait. Hold on. How can the Earth be flat and hollow?
I'm not sure. I'm not.
Those
I'm
are
not.
those
I'm
are
not exactly
mutually
sure.
exclusive. Those are, unless maybe he's now adopting the toroidal Earth hypothesis, which credit where credit is due. At least that model is theoretically allowed within the laws of physics, albeit incredibly unstable, but theoretically allowed. It
So
can't be both flat and if it were hollow, that implies a a shape rather than just a a flat plane. Oh, jeez.
okay. So then the article goes on to read. Okay, hold on.
AJ, stop it, boy.
Okay, then the article goes on to read. Naturally, no book on selling atheism would be complete without a selection or a section on evolution, emphasizing once again the fact that evolution is the cornerstone of modern atheism. No,
No,
it is
it
fucking not.
isn't. You
Jesus.
can be an atheist and reject evolution. You can be an atheist and
Yeah.
accept creation.
They
Literally,
like to clump. They
I,
clump everything in atheism.
I
Everything.
know, and it's
Everything.
I don't know why they can't understand that atheism is just a position. It's just an answer to one question. That's
Right.
it. It doesn't have a divine dictator saying what you should believe. It doesn't
Right.
have a pantheon telling you what you believe. It doesn't have a dogma. It doesn't have anything. It is just an answer to one question.
Yeah. They
Does a
like
God exist?
they like to move the goalposts though. I mean that's what works for them. They move the goalposts. Um.
And I know, and
So
I so desperately want to find a way to just once they set that goalpost on what it is, to just chain it there, to not allow it to move.
but one of the primary roles that we have here at CMI is producing resources which equip families to be ready for evolutionary onslaughts and strengthen the faith of Christians around the globe. We have many such resources available at the children's section of our web store. To highlight just two examples of the exploring series with Mr. Hibb, one book on geology and one on dinosaurs is extremely helpful in introducing a creationary understanding of these topics to children ranging from around 10 to 15 years of age. For teens and families, we also offer A Question of Origins by Shelby McFarland. Jesus
Um,
said,
are they
but
trying to
whoever,
sell? Are they trying to
yeah,
sell children book to 15-year
oh,
olds?
absolutely.
Do they
And I,
understand what a child is?
yeah, and do they not realize how kind of fucking sending that is? Like a
Exact.
15-year-old doesn't.
God
Um,
damn.
but then Jesus said, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. Warnings.
That's the kind of shit we're talking about. Well, Jesus flat out
Exactly.
condones modal.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I just
God, God
the
damn
sheer
it, people.
the sheer audacity of them. Just the shit they say is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
Okay.
do they know what projection is?
Well, that's exactly what they're
'Cause
doing. Projecting.
that
That's
seemed a lot
exactly what
like
they're doing.
projection. hey, our book says that if you don't believe, we should kill you. But the atheists, they think if you do believe, you're scum and you should die.
Let's see what some of the topics are. Okay, topics: aliens, apologetics, Bible, biology, education, dinosaurs, datings, and creation relevance. What should we look at? Oh, ethics, evolutionism, fossil, genetics,
You know what?
history. Ooh, this is a good one.
Let's look at ethics. I want to see
Ethics, all right.
how they excuse their ethics.
Okay, what do you want
'Cause
to look at?
I,
Abortion,
I
cloning and stem cells, euthanasia, family and marriage, morality, poverty, social
morality,
racism. Morality, all right.
morality.
Let's go with
I had an
morality.
argument all night at work with some dude about morality in the Bible, and he could not wrap his head around how empathy could be a source of morality. Had to be dictated from a book.
All right, there's three different articles I definitely want to look at in this section. One of them is why I believe in objective morals. They're not mushrooms. Morals. um, one is morals decline linked to belief in evolution, and the other one is does the Bible promote injustice? Which one would you like that first? Let's look at the why I believe in objective morals first.
I'm sorry, can we discuss the title of the one right below that?
What's that?
Not a, can we discuss the title of the one right below this? How to build a
How to
bomb
build a
in the
bomb in the public school system?
like, do they not realize that
Yeah,
phrasing
yeah.
is important?
Yeah. We'll go back and look at that one. That one did pique my
Because
interest once
I
I'm done
don't
with
think they're
it.
actually advocating for building a bomb,
No,
but
I doubt that. I
Jesus,
I I, I hope
Jesus
not.
Christ.
I hope not. Anyway, I really do hope not. Good morning, Heat Shield. How are you, buddy? Okay. So, why believe in objective morals? So, why believe in objective morals? How can we believe in objective morals if people disagree on moral questions? Exactly.
That
Just
should
see
show
from the United
right
States
there.
rights
The fact that people disagree should
that they're
be
not objective.
evidence that they
Yeah.
are not objective. Because here's how I view
Uh,
it. I'm very much a moral subjectivist. But that being said, I believe there are some things that are always objectively wrong. Rape and like murder that is not done in self-defense.
yeah. I mean,
If
there are
it's
some
not,
things.
if it is not those two things, context determines its morality or not.
Right. Right. That's all. But it's still. I mean, yes, them are. I mean, I would agree that them are objectively wrong, but to some people they might not be. So
I,
it
I'm,
is
I'm,
still
I,
technically subjective. You
it
know.
is. I admit I'm using a
Yeah, I
diff.
get what you're
I'm
saying. I get
using
what
a
you're saying.
different definition of objective.
I
It's just I don't
yeah.
believe there is.
Any excuse for it.
So therefore, to me, they are objective. Like they
Exactly.
are
That's the way. That's that.
objectively evil acts. I don't
Yeah, I agree
agree
with
that
you.
everyone agrees. Because obviously they're all serial killers, they're all serial rapists. That they
Yeah, obviously.
genuinely don't see doing any wrong. I mean, over
There's a big I mean there's a whole bunch of people that vary what they there's atheists that say yes there are objective morals, there's atheists that say no they're not objective, they're just subjective. I'm from the camp that I think that morals are subjective, but some of them have become objective through through social.
societal
Yeah,
consensus.
yeah, exactly. That they. I mean, it's of course it's wrong to go out and murder someone because I mean you have no right to take someone else's life. I mean,
Yeah,
but is it more?
I don't.
Is it objectively moral? Nah. I mean, you can say yeah because no one should kill anybody, but I mean, like you said, the psychopath might not think that. I mean,
Yeah,
but
I admit.
societally, then yes, it is objectively wrong. But I mean, to
Yeah,
each
like I
individual
admit I
person,
don't. Yeah, I admit like I don't use objective in the way that they are likely using objective. I'm using objective as there is no excuse for it. Just, but to say morality is objective in the sense that they are using it, the
yeah,
simple fact that someone can say I don't think so absolutely betrays the the premise that there
yeah,
is such a thing as object, because if it were objective, the capability of disagreeing would not exist.
exactly. I mean, I mean, there wouldn't be any capability of disagreement if it was objective. If it was objective, that means it's innate inside you, and no matter what, you know it's wrong or right, what's right and wrong. If you're not raised to believe something's right or wrong, you're not going to believe it's right or wrong. Like if, and no offense to any, but like say, let's just say gypsies, for instance, they are known because they're travelers. They're known to maybe be a little shadier in business practices. To them, they might not think what they're doing is wrong, but other people may think it is. You know what I mean? Gang
Yeah,
members, same way. Gang members are out, running the streets, selling drugs, being thugs. Do they think it's subjectively wrong? Fuck
yeah,
no, they don't. To
exactly.
them, it's all subjective.
Yeah, or to get playfully anti-Semitic, which, like I've already said, it's okay. I'm part Jew.
You're a Jew,
um,
yeah.
if we steal some shekels from someone, it's not. We don't think it's wrong. It's shekels. We deserve it.
Right, right, right. Okay, so why believe in objective morals? I read the first part. Is the moral argument a poor argument for theism? I absolutely think it is. The
I
only
just think it's
evidence
a
of a
poor argument
moral
in
law
general.
existing would be our sense of it. What if our conscience conflicts with the Bible? My conscience tells me that it would be evil to kill my dog, but the Bible says it wouldn't be. Not everyone has the same moral feelings. Does this significantly weaken the moral argument? Absolutely. That's the funny thing about it
Yeah,
is there. I mean, they can see.
they
I mean,
they
you know,
disagree with it in their own opening
yeah,
statement,
that's what I'm saying.
and
They
they
refuted their
just.
own argument in the first fucking paragraph.
But the level of cognitive dissonance, they're like, okay, yeah, we know we just disproved it, but we have to say it's true because reason.
Because God. That's the only reason there is. Yeah, I agree with you. A pack of hobos. Rape is one of the few objective morals I can think of. Um, I think it would probably be objectively wrong to. I think genocide is objectively wrong. Um,
That
I,
also is kind of subjective, though, to be
I mean,
honest.
to me personally, I said to me personally, I think it's objectively wrong.
Well,
I mean, you're right. It is subjective. You're right. It is
okay,
subjective.
yeah.
That's what I was
Well,
talking about. I mean, it all boils down to what you believe. Oh, hey,
well,
Yeah,
the
hey,
thing
Russ.
is, Mole, I got a scenario here for you. These are, of course, scenarios that are always, 9 times out of 10 never going to happen. But, um, so if if it depends on what your moral standard is, because, like, for instance, if you base your morals on the least amount of harm done to people, then there are scenarios where rape is the uh, would be a more moral act. Like, for instance, if you do not rape this person, I will kill millions of people. Then that is a then in that scenario, the rape would be the less, or would be the more moral act.
it would, but I would still argue it is. I admit with how I use objective in that sense, it is never excusable. It is always wrong. It may be the
Okay,
best.
maybe
It may be the best choice in that scenario, but it is still inhumanly wrong.
maybe that's the better way to word it. Then maybe
Yeah.
that probably is a better way to word it. It's not objectively wrong, but we know that. I mean, 9.5 9.9% of people out of 10 are probably going to say, yes, rape is wrong. I mean, subjective or objective, it doesn't matter. 9 out of 10 people are going to say rape is wrong. We can agree on that, right?
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I guess it's just the way you look at things, then I suppose. But I mean, I'm not an objective moralist. I don't believe any morals are technically objective. I mean, like some things. I mean, when I was saying that rape is objectively wrong is that it doesn't serve any purpose good. There's no good purpose for it. At least with murder, there may be a good purpose. There may be some good outcome from it. I mean, there may be a reason behind it, but what I cannot think of any good reason why rape would be okay. Not in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, that's just my opinion, though. Like I said, that's literally just my opinion. So you know, that's the thing about opinions. Everybody's got one. So it goes on to say, since we've defended the moral argument for God quite extensively on our website, we clearly don't think it's a poor argument for God. Well, I do. However, that doesn't mean it will convince everyone. No argument for God or against God will do that. I'm glad that you can see that. For more information, please see Philosophical Arguments for God and Agnosticism. And they really, really, really need to learn the difference between agnosticism and atheism. They really do.
Yeah, they exist on eh, though on two separate scales. You
Yeah.
can be an agnostic atheist like I am. You can be an agnostic theist, albeit those are incredibly rare. I've actually never run into any.
I technically would think they all are agnostic theists, though they won't admit it. But do any of them truly know? None of them know. So technically, they are all agnostics.
They may all be technically, but how agnosticism and Gnosticism are divided, it's a subset of knowledge. If they claim to
Yeah, I
have
know.
knowledge of God, which let's face it, they do,
Yes, yeah,
they
you're right.
they technically fall into the Gnostic category.
Well, no, the agnostic thing is it depends because you have a philosophical agnostic, which is the colloquial atheist, meaning that they say that the best way to look at that is from Steve McRae's point of view. He he is a agnostic. He believes that he doesn't know if they're. I don't want to strawman him or say exactly what he says, but it just like I said, it depends on what you're classifying as what because the a lot of people use the old term of Gnosticism, meaning knowledge, when in today's society, that's not what Gnostic or agnostics are. They don't claim to have knowledge or lack of knowledge and things like that. It is a strictly just what they believe.
Right, right.
You are a philosophical atheist, then that means you hold to the position of there being no gods. And that is then an affirmative belief, which then you have the burden of proof.
Yeah, which I tend to reject that. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Steve. I think he's a smart guy. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to
Oh,
philosophy.
Steve McRae.
Yes,
Yeah. He does. Yeah.
but I do
But
disagree with him on that simply because I don't claim there is no God. I claim
Okay,
that I
then
don't. So, but
that
I still
is
I do
what
use the archaic version of agnostic. But while I use that, I desperately try to avoid using its modern definition alongside with it as I try to avoid the
Right.
Well,
equivocation fallacy.
yeah, but the thing is whenever it comes to philosophically, if you hold to the if you just flat out whenever they said, okay, you're an atheist, so what do you believe? Then you say, I believe that I just believe that I lack the belief in God. You can still classify yourself as an atheist. It's just that you are just the colloquial definition of an atheist.
Right. Yeah. I used
And
to call myself an agnostic atheist, but I just dropped agnostic. I'm still
yeah,
agnostic. I still
it's
don't know, but
yeah, that's
I'm a hard atheist, So
and
I'm
that
just an
is
atheist.
yeah, and that's perfectly fine. You can be a a atheist and simply still hold to the thing. It's just that whenever you try to get into the philosophical discussions, you have to realize that you do hold a position of agnosticism. For
Right.
instance, Cyrus, he is a atheist, but when it comes to the philosophy, he will very much tell you that he is agnostic when it
Right.
comes to philosophy. And that's what you're dealing with whenever you do with
Right.
these different things like this.
I think that's personally the most intellectually honest way of saying I'm an atheist. Yes, I'm an atheist. I don't believe that there's a God. I see no reason to believe there's a God. I see no evidence of a God. But I'm still intellectually honest enough to say I don't know for sure. So yes, technically I'm an agnostic, but I lean heavily, or I lean very, very heavily toward the atheism side of it. So I would consider myself a hard atheist. I don't believe there's a God, but I don't know for sure.
And I would view
I don't know for
myself
sure.
I would view myself as a weak atheist that gets what's the word I'm looking for? Pronouncedly more Gnostic in my belief. Sorry to use that word wrong if I did. Just
Yeah.
trying to
Well,
get the point across. Um, the more defined the God gets, the more I lean towards that does not exist. So if someone just wants to say this nebulous, like a deistic God, fine, whatever. I'm as weak on that as I can possibly be while still being an atheist. But the more you get towards like Yahweh, I am almost 100% positive that that being does not and in fact cannot exist.
and again, that's all fine and dandy. And in that case, regardless, you are still an atheist. Um, it's just that whenever it comes to, I mean, even Steve will say that he's like, I am an agnostic. He goes, there are certain gods that I know cannot exist, but and I think he even holds to the thing that Yahweh can exist. But he still is agnostic because he says that there is a um, because we cannot know for a 100% certainty, it still leaves it open. So therefore, he holds to the agnostic.
Okay.
So the article goes on to say, first, the Bible doesn't say you can kill your dog for just any reason. Whoever is righteous has regard for life of his beast. Proverbs 12:10. While we have authority over animals, Genesis 1:28, in a fallen world, that authority has been extended to authority over the lives to a certain extent, e.g., for food or in sacrifice. We still need a good reason to kill our animals. According to the Bible, and while the Bible certainly gives us principles to help discern the matter, and in some cases, we do need to kill our animals, e.g., if they become a danger to human life. It will, in many cases, come down to a question of personal conscience. And on that count, the Bible says that violating personal conscience is bad. Whatever does not proceed from faith is sin. But that does not mean you should expect everyone to agree with you. And because the Bible's advice is so generic, there's plenty of room for reasonable disagreement among Christians. So while the Bible doesn't mandate your views, it doesn't condemn them either. Now, I cannot believe that they said that the advice in the Bible is so generic. I cannot believe they said that. That blows my
Yeah,
fucking mind.
that almost seems to say that they admit that it is so vague it can mean whatever you want from
That's
it.
exactly what
And
they said. That's not
and,
almost what that is exactly what they said.
and moreover, with the you can't kill your dog for any sacrifice. They literally gave a reason a sentence later.
Yeah. Okay. And that now, second, if the mere existence of conflicting moral feelings undermines our warrant for believing in objective morals based on our moral experience, that seems to imply we can only have reasonable warrant for accepting objective morality. If everyone agrees on every moral question, but disagreements could arise for many different reasons. Perhaps we're limited. Perhaps some of these or questions are difficult. Perhaps some of us have bought into falsehoods to distort our moral views. Perhaps we're sinners with moral compasses that are somewhat distorted naturally. Can people be good without God? I absolutely believe so. All these reasons plausibly explain why disagreements might exist, despite the reality of objective morals and us having a generally reliable grasp of basic moral questions. So that's just them once again trying to get over their own cognitive dissonance. They realize that everybody's moral compass around the world isn't exactly the same. What a tribe in the Amazon believes might not be the same as a group of people living in the Balkan mountains. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, the main ones, let's say like murder and rape and stealing from your neighbors. I mean, all these things are going to cause societal issues. That's what makes them wrong. It's gonna. I mean, if it's gonna make your life harder in the society you live in, then you probably shouldn't do it. I think that's where they're getting confused with objective morality, and I mean, where they think, oh well, since no one should do it, that's objective. That I think that's what they think. You know what I mean? That this is
Yeah,
this, so therefore this. You know?
yeah. Just because someone shouldn't do it, it's objective, is almost laughably pitiful as an excuse for your position.
Right, right.
Because
It's
if
just
there, sh-
okay.
there should be especially if you're trying to dictate it from a divine commandment, there should be a better reason than, well, we all just agree it's wrong. Or at least the overwhelming majority agree it's wrong.
Hey, Bible Belt, and yes, he's still my poet friend is still alive and well. That was a little strange that day, but I'm glad he got it out of him and got to talk to us, and he feels better. Uh, so thank you for asking about him, though. I don't know if you guys know what he's talking about, but okay. So the next it goes on to read. Besides, universal agreement doesn't mean much. For instance, say that the Nazis killed or brainwashed everyone who thought the Holocaust was evil. Would that have made the Holocaust good? Would it mean that there's no truth to the matter? Neither. The Holocaust is evil, regardless of what anyone thinks. Absolutely. I mean, I agree with that, but that still that doesn't change anything. Just because everyone agrees it's evil, that still doesn't make it objective. That just means it's wrong. It's just wrong because we shouldn't kill 6 million people. Just period.
Yeah. And
But I mean,
moreover, I love how they try to invoke Godwin's law without trying to get too far into it. Because really, why else would you try to go for the hot? It immediately invokes a visceral reaction in most people. It's automatically pure disgust. Like, how could someone do this instead of just going for really a far more reasonable of, well, what if 100 people went and stole from like a food clinic or something? Whereas it's not quite as visceral to to try to get their point across still.
Right, right. And it goes on to, moreover, the question is it permissible to kill my pet? Is not the best question to gauge the reality of objective morals by. The reality of objective morals doesn't mean that all moral questions are easy to answer. Of course, they're not easy to answer. That's why they're moral questions. Rather, we use clear cut examples like, is it wrong to torture a baby just for fun to show that? Despite the difficulty of many moral questions, there are some situations where merely a moment's reflection will make it clear to most that we can't escape the reality of the reality of morality. Indeed, that is it right to torture X just for fun is a really handy one because we can substitute babies for whatever the person we're dealing with really loves, like your mom, your dog, your son, or whatever. Making it personal heightens the person's disgust at the idea and usually forces people to admit that they can't escape the reality of morality. Uh,
But didn't their God, drowned
yeah,
99.9% of
yeah,
humanity?
yeah,
Instead of
99.999999999. You know what I mean?
instead of just painlessly blinking them out of existence.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But it's not
He,
torture if God does it. What about the 10 plagues of fucking Egypt? That isn't
yeah,
torture.
will
Is that
he
morally right?
on top of where he hardened the Pharaoh's heart so that the Pharaoh had no option but to say no.
Right. Was it morally right for a tribe of Jews to circumcise a whole tribe of Gentiles, then sneak into their camp and kill them while they're in pain, and then steal their women? No, that doesn't seem very immoral, does it? The funny thing is their morality is only handy when it's convenient for them. Like if it's not convenient for them, they sure as fuck don't mind, do they?
No, they really don't, and it shows that they. I don't think they care about morality. They don't care what they think is if what they think is moral or not. They simply just want to claim a high horse. They want to say, we're better than you, nana nana boo boo.
Right? Yeah.
And that doesn't get anyone anywhere. It doesn't advance a conversation. It doesn't define why we think this is wrong. I can state examples for why I wouldn't torture a baby. I have empathy. I may not like the things, but I don't want to be tortured.
Right.
I would
Who
not
does?
torture another living being because I don't want to be tortured.
Right.
It's,
Exactly.
I'll admit, it's selfish. It is a selfish reason, but it's still an empathetic, it still comes from empathy. Because if we had a society that just went on allowing people to torture whoever, it would crumble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to explain. I'm like, it's morals. I think morals are an evolution of society. What's good for society became morals. Like if you live in a small tribe, okay, think about ancient times. They didn't have gigantic cities like we do now. Okay,
So, like a
so
tribe of about 20.
well, even a tribe of 2 or 300. If you did something wrong in that group of 2 or 300 people, they're all going to know about it. You're going to
Yeah,
cause
you would be,
problems in that society. So you're going to
and
be an issue.
yeah, you would be ousted,
Yeah,
ostracized.
exactly. Exactly. So that's what I think that's how morals evolved because, what's good, it's, it's what's best for the group, not the individual when it comes to that case. Do you understand you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, what's better for what's best for the whole group survival versus what's best for one person. I think that's how morals may have evolved into being what they are today. In my opinion, it seems like a pretty logical assumption to make. I mean, but that's just what it is an assumption.
I do believe that is the consensus with on how morality evolved. It's we are a social species, so it's whatever helps the tribe benefit got absorbed over time and just became our morality. Because it's no doubt that probably for a few thousand years as proto-humans, that morality was probably pretty scarce. There was
Right. Or
there was
there was.
probably a metric fuck ton of murder and rape.
Oh, I guarantee there was. I mean, are you talking like pre-civilization, like when we were still hunter-gatherers?
I would argue even before then, like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
proto-human,
Oh yeah, I almost
not
guarantee
quite
it.
even Homo sapien yet, but all deeply all the way up until society as a concept even came around. There was probably just okay, well, tribe mentalities are still kind of real. It's just your family group, and that was really it.
Well, one of the things is you got to remember whenever during back before Homo sapien sapien, which is us,
Yeah.
back before then, rape
We
was not rape as what we know it.
didn't
Not
wasn't
necessarily a
a
thing.
bad concept.
Yeah,
I know.
the concept that we have of rape wasn't the same thing back then. Back then, um,
Right. It was
if
more
you
like a
were
spoil of war.
well,
Yeah, it
no,
was.
even before the thing is it was primal instinct. Have sex,
Oh,
have
propagate our species, pretty much.
and the thing is the woman not necessarily need to be willing. However, back then, you can't exactly know if these women were willing or not because we can't. That's one thing that we may not know. The only thing we can go off of is the evidence of what we have, and what we have is different species of individuals who actually bred together. Like for instance, we do have the fossil remains of like Neanderthal and
Inhuman hybrids.
well, they're all part of the human lineage.
Yeah,
They're all part of.
okay, I'm sorry.
Uh,
Neanderthals and Homo sapien hybrids.
well, no, because I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure about that exactly. I don't know if Neanderthal and Homo sapien ever walked together. But
Yeah,
you
but
will
of
have
course they did. We have Neanderthal DNA in our
yes,
DNA.
but that's because our ancestors could have walked with them, not necessarily sapiens. Uh,
Yeah.
we don't
Well,
necessarily, like for instance, you don't have to have
Oh, okay, I
walked
get
with
what
your
you're saying.
great great
They could.
grandfather
I
to
get what
know
you're
that
saying.
y'all related.
It could have been generations before Homo sapiens.
Yes,
I get what you're saying. It could have been
yeah,
like
it could have just.
It could have been Cro-Magnon man or Homo erectus or whatever.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying.
So we have fossil. I mean, one of the most famous ones that we have is we have we found recently, as in this year, the very first next generation of half Neanderthal and half Denisovan.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, that was
I
found.
didn't hear about that.
Yeah, it was in a cave in France. I want to say it was.
Yeah,
It,
Denisovan.
yeah, and so it's the very first. We know that the two had intermingled before, but we've never found because we have even humans today that will have both Neanderthal and Denisovan.
Yeah,
Uh,
Or like if you have Denisovan DNA, usually it's farther east, and if you have Neanderthal DNA, you're normally further west. Like
mm,
say Turkey is the cutoff line between east and west. Okay, we'll just call it Turkey since that technically is the cutoff. But if you were east of Turkey, you would generally have Denisovan and human DNA mixture, And if you were west of the cutoff, it would be generally either Neanderthal and human DNA. But very rarely did they find the three combined.
Yeah, and
Don't
so
the
we've never found the first generation of them until this year, and it's a very, very exciting find. But so we do know that they
quick
intermingled, but
question.
we can't know if it was what we would classify as rape or if it was
Consensual.
consensual type of thing, because back then consensual and non-consensual was not exactly a known concept or a thing that they thought about.
Yeah,
Right.
quick question. How do we know it was the first mixed
Due
species of the two?
due to genetic markers, they
Okay.
figured it out that way.
Like
That
haplogroups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
nice. That's actually very because I knew uh Tibet like up in the mountains of like near Everest
Mhm.
um that they typically have a higher percentage of Denisovian DNA than they do
Yeah.
Neanderthal.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll tell you a
Um,
person if you want to learn about evolution, I'll tell you the person to check out is Jackson Wheat.
Oh God, yes.
Do you know who
Jackson.
Jackson Wheat is?
uh, I've
I know you do, frustrated, but do
I've
you?
heard of the name. I've not checked out any of his content.
Very, very brilliant guy. Very, very
Yeah.
smart dude. Very,
I
Um.
very
will
smart.
have to check him out because
y-
I'll admit
y-
there's a lot about the subject I don't know, and I
Yeah,
find it extremely
yeah.
fascinating.
I'm not real well versed on it either. But
I mean, I know enough to keep a rudimentary
yeah,
conversation about it
yeah,
going, and even just try to explain the absolute core basics.
yeah. Me
But
too.
I
But I
would
don't
like to
know much
learn
more than that.
more.
Yeah, I don't know much more than that either. I know the basics, but I'm not real. I'm not real versed in. It's not my. I'm more of a history guy than I am a science guy.
I'm
Okay,
more of
so
a
the article.
literature.
I love literature too. It goes on to
I'm a
say
grammar Nazi.
transfer this sort of thinking to another subject. For instance, Muslims and Christians typically disagree on whether Jesus died by crucifixion. Does this disagreement undermine our ability to know any historical truth? Does it
Equivocation
call into
fallacy.
question? Yeah, it is. Does this call into question the very notion of historical truth? Surely not. Even if we couldn't know who was right in this instant, e.g., for lack of evidence, which neither one of them have, it still wouldn't undermine our ability to know any historical truth, and it certainly wouldn't be reason to think that there's no historical truth to be known. But that's exactly parallel to what you're suggesting regarding morals. Just because our moral experience might fail us in some instances does not mean that it is untrustworthy in all other cases.
Except that is literally not what we're saying. Like, that is. I'm not sure how much more bluntly it could be put other than, no, it's not. You daft imbeciles. You need to simply cease.
Okay, it goes on to say you'll always find diehard moral skeptics. They will reject objective morality no matter how much you try to convince them otherwise. But that doesn't make you wrong, and it's not cause for you to doubt. Rather, it just makes them crazy. Or it means they have an atheistic axe to grind. The latter is usually more likely.
Or
So, we're
or
not.
creation.com, it could be that we have actually put some thought into it and philosophically we you. That doesn't
Right,
make us right. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make anyone right or wrong. I could be a diehard fundamentalist Christian again, and if I just revolted back to fundamentalist Baptist, but everything else about me stayed the exact same, including how I judge my morals, I would still be a moral subjectivist. I would no longer be an atheist in that case,
right.
but I would still disagree on there being objective morality.
Right. And it goes on to say, and press them for reasons why they reject objective morals. What justification for their views do they have? We've seen that the mere existence of conflicting moral feelings doesn't work. What about evolution? Evolution is irrelevant. First,
That for
evolutionary
once they're
accounts.
right.
Yeah, first, evolutionary accounts of the origin of our moral beliefs are little more than a pack of conflicting, just so stories. That's exactly what your fucking thing is. Just a pack of
The
stories.
irony. The
And
irony.
projection. It's just pure projection. Second, even if we could, sorry about that. Second, even if we could explain the origin of our moral beliefs, that doesn't mean they're not objective. To say otherwise is to commit the genetic fallacy. For instance, even if evolution were true, God could plan the process to produce in us generally reliable moral faculties. So, of course, God did
I will
not.
agree with him. I will agree
Yeah,
with him right
yeah.
there.
But
More, but
then they turn around and say this. So, of course, God did not use evolution, and the Bible contradicts such an idea. See,
you know
Christian
what?
philosopher.
I will agree with him again. The Bible does in fact disagree with evolution, simply because at the time it was written, people had no idea how genetics worked. They had no idea how mating worked. Dear
Right,
God,
right.
there's a section in the Bible that tells you if you want a cow with stripes, have it mate in front of a tree with in front of a pole with stripes on it. They didn't understand the natural world. They didn't even know where the fucking sun went at night.
Yeah,
So of course they're not going to understand a fairly complex topic such as over time organisms change as the allele frequency within a population group changes.
right. Okay, and then it goes on to say, evolution by itself does not undermine our moral faculties. It's only when evolution is combined with naturalism that it does that. So what they're saying pretty much is when we take science mixed with logic, that undermines their idea of objective morality. Isn't that what it kind of sounds like what they're saying?
Just a little.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you
In other
can't
words,
you can't have this idea because it doesn't make me feel good.
right. In other words, the only reason for rejecting objective morality turns out to be a rejection of God. What? Why do they always use that?
Because they don't have anything
Ah,
else.
but that just assumes what the skeptic needs to prove. See, answering a moral relativist and a cultural relativism in morality. The skeptic really doesn't have much hope in justifying a rejection of objective morals, which is why you should press them to try. And remind them that if they buckle under pressure, they have to deal with their prior acceptance of the other premise of the moral argument, i.e., if God doesn't exist, objective morals don't exist. I already, if God does or doesn't exist, objective morals don't exist. So that argument's poopy. On
Yeah,
which
because you
we
have the
see,
question of if God exists and objective morality does exist, I will give this to them for the sake of this argument. Does the morality come from outside of their God or does it come from within? Because if it's from outside of their God, God is not necessary for morality. And if it comes from within, well, that's just a case of might makes right.
right,
Is it good because God says so,
Well,
or is it good
the
because it's good?
the thing that they say is that it's part of his character. That God inherently cannot do anything that is wrong
right,
because it's part of
And
him.
I inherently cannot lift a call. So by not contradicting that, am I now omnipotent? It's within. I'm sticking within my nature.
But I'm playing devil's advocate for you to be able to talk against. But so what they then say is that you are not God, though. That you are just a mortal man, and God is he is the Almighty. He is the All Knowing.
I,
That he
I
can do.
I'm a, I'm aware of that, but if we're sticking with the it's within their nature argument, well, it's within my nature to not be able to lift a call.
Right.
But the
Okay.
thing
The
is,
the rest. The last. I'm just going to read the last paragraph of the article,
go
and we
ahead.
can discuss it. The skeptic really doesn't have much hope in justifying a rejection of objective morals, which is why you should press them to try and remind them that if they buckle under pressure, they have to deal with prior acceptance of the other premise, moral argument. I read that part. The diehard skeptic will likely just hop between. Listen to the projection of this. The diehard skeptic will likely just hop between denying each premise, ultimately doing so only because they can't accept the conclusion of the argument. As frustrating as that might seem, it's actually a really good position to leave them in. It's hard to live with contradiction once it's been pointed out to us, and it may be the catalyst God will use to move them closer to Himself. I could change a few words in there, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Uh, yeah,
The diehard Christian will likely
word
just
for
hop
word.
between denying each premise, ultimately doing so because they can't accept the conclusion of the argument. As frustrating as that might seem, it's actually a really good position to leave Christians in. It's hard to live with contradiction once it's been pointed out to them, and it may be the catalyst
To
for
move
them
them
to
closer
see
to
that there
reason.
is no God. Yeah, I mean, I could. That's exactly. It's all it is projection. That's literally all that is. That last little bit was projection.
I mean, and as Aristotle once said, the mark of an intelligent mind is being able to entertain an idea without accepting it. I can entertain the idea of objective morality all day long,
Right.
but I don't find evidence for it. And without evidence, tough shit trying to convince me that it's accurate. That's something that their God should know, considering that if he exists, he made me this way. Their God made me for hell because I need evidence for belief.
Right. I mean, it's essentially. I mean, I don't understand how Christians don't get that either. They're pretty much saying that we're born into sin. As soon as you come out of your mother's womb, you are a sinner. I mean, so essentially, God made us just to burn in hell. I mean, essentially, we're made literally to burn in hell. That's our only purpose in life. Either worship Him or burn in hell. Them are the only two choices. That sounds. Why would an omnipotent, omniscient being need the love and adulation of the creatures He created? That would be like me painting a picture and then expecting that picture to love me because I created it. I mean, because I
Yeah,
can't create living things, obviously, so I have to use that as an example. But how silly is that? I created you. Yeah, I should love you if I created you. I'm talking about inanimate objects once again because I'm not a god, obviously. But I'm just saying, how silly is that to think that uh, that your own creation should love you? You know what I mean? Like, it
yeah.
just
Like, and I've not used this argument for about since the last time iFunny was relevant. So a while ago. But if I were a god, not even if I were a god, let's say I procreated and had 20 children, and I only interacted with one of them. I only ever let one of them know for sure I existed, but I left no evidence for them to convince their other siblings. If I then let all the other children know that unless they love and worship me, I would drown them, that would not make me loving. It would make me a fucking psychopath. It would make me a moral thug. I would be a monster. It doesn't,
right,
and that is exactly what the Christian God does should he exist. He gives a few select people knowledge of him, and then lets everyone else just be like, fuck you. You better have been born in the right area to to actually learn about me. Otherwise, I'm I'm roasting your skin for all eternity.
Okay, here's the next article is does the Bible promote injustice, slavery, morality, and the positive effect of the Bible on society?
Okay,
Okay,
the title and the subtitle contradict each other.
yeah, I know. Okay, in this feedback article, CMI's Lisa Costner and Dr. Don Batten address concerns and objections concerning slavery and the morality of the Bible. JP writes, "Hello. A friend of mine asked a questions concerning Exodus 21, which is, now these are the rules that you shall set before them. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, and in the seventh he shall go free for nothing. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife will
Leaves with him.
also leave with him." Okay, so where it states that if a man beats a slave and the slave dies, then the master is not held responsible. That's wrong. The master is held responsible. But if the slave dies, then he is. This is quite hard to explain. After reading your take on slavery in the Bible, I have already explained to my friend that slavery, in the Hebrew sense, was actually servitude. But how do I explain this passage? It seems self-defeatist almost. Why would a man be allowed to beat another man, even though the man was his slave? Harming anyone physically is wrong. But in the same case, such as self-defense, it's understandable. I'd really like some insight on this. Thank you, JP. Dear
Uh,
Jay, thanks
Hold
for
on,
writing.
real quick. I'd like to actually
Okay.
discuss his letter. I, I do enjoy that he at least tries to see that, hey, this is wrong. We harming another human is
Hmm.
not okay.
Yes.
Why does our holy text say it is? And moreover, it within the Hebrew sense it's servitude. Slavery is literally servitude. Not just
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
Hebrew sense, that's in the
No,
Greek
but
sense, in the
no.
Roman sense,
Listen,
in
listen to how they
Aramaic.
worded it. Listen to how they worded it, though. If a Hebrew, if a Hebrew is the slave, then it's indentured servitude. So yes, they did have where if you were in debt, you could sell yourself into slavery, pay off your debt, and you were free. But that didn't apply if they fucking
They were
took
non-Hebrew.
you in,
You
if they weren't
could,
Hebrew, or they took you in spoil of war. If you weren't, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you were
If you
just
weren't
a
Hebrew,
slave
you
for
were just,
life.
that wasn't
And
indentured servitude. That was, you were a slave for life. For
And
life.
moreover, even if you were Hebrew, there was a loophole where if he came in single and you gave him a wife, if at the end of the seventh year he goes to the master and says, "Master, I love my wife. I do not want to leave without her." The master would take the slave to the city jail or to the city gates and let everyone know that he wishes to remain his property, and he would pierce the Hebrew's ear. That Hebrew would then be that man's slave for life.
Right. So I like
That is
how
an
I like
explicit
I don't you like how they
atonement.
try to don't you like how they try to make it look like, oh, there wasn't no slavery. It was just indentured servitude. Bullshit. Read the rest of your Bible. So what his answer to Jay though was, thanks for writing in. I assume there was a typo in your email, and you meant if the slave doesn't die, the master is not held responsible. It's important to note that corporal punishment by beating was allowed as a punishment in multiple spheres of life. Parents were expected to beat their children to ensure behavior, to the extent that the Jews could say a parent who didn't beat his children hated them. Adult Jews could be beaten by the city elders or synagogue officials for various offenses. In this particular case, the slave is probably an indentured servant serving for a particular period of time, for example, to pay off a debt or theft. It is not inconceivable that in these circumstances, someone would sell, say, 7 years of their labor, but then slack off until their time was up. It would be just like if someone working on a salary was slacking off at work, just because he gets paid the same whether he works or not. So the law allows the owner to make sure he gets his money's worth by permitting an incentive to work. In
Hey,
this case,
hey, creation.com. You know what we don't allow if someone is slacking at walk?
I'm beating
Fucking
them.
beating them.
Right. In this case, I think bad translation is partly to blame for some of the misunderstanding. Oh, I thought that there was no bad translation in the Bible. It's
Yeah,
translated as
I thought.
God's law. It's perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was his inerrant word.
Yeah, it
Which,
can't be.
which
There
is
can't
it?
be any bad
Which is it?
translations.
Well,
You
the thing
can't.
Yeah.
is it's not that the fact that it's translated wrong. The thing is you're interpreting it wrong.
Mm,
Still,
of
goes on the
course.
problem of the fact that if this is my biggest issue is that this is the word of God, that God is not the author of confusion. And on top of that, you are supposed to be able to look at the scripture as if a child is reading it, which should mean then that it is very easy to understand. And yet we have to have scholars and people who go through seminary to tell us what it means. And so this is a big contradiction of what the Bible says and what is being taught.
Right. That just goes back to that last article we read where it said essentially that um, that the Bible is generic and vague and you can interpret it any way you want. I mean, this is the funniest website I've ever seen. They contradict themselves more than any website I've ever seen. At least AIG makes an attempt to lie better. These guys are more honest than they I think care to be because they're not arguing very well for themselves, are they?
No, they are not.
Wow. Oh wow. So okay, the next one is from Albert E. from the United States. Writes in response to who created God. Really? I mean, is this the best you theists can do? Is this your best answer? This article does not tell me squat. Mostly what it's doing is referring back to that incompetent book, the Bible. You can thank that book. You can thank that book for me being atheist, and I actually do something that most of you theists don't, and read the whole Bible. I do have a few questions for y'all. If this God was loving and is real, then why does he promote hate, murder, rape, intolerance, etc.? Here's a link for you theists. The web link was removed, obviously. Study the Bible a little more before you start debating it. CMI's Dr. Don Batten responds, Dear Albert, you have not engaged the logical arguments of the article. The Bible statements are not the argument they are cited to show that what the Bible says, for example, about the nature of the Creator is consistent with logical argument.
Okay, that was a non-sentence.
Yeah.
Words were said, but no actual meaning within the English lexicon was actually um, transcribed there. Um,
Right.
it said absolutely nothing. They would have been better off by saying, "Hey,
Okay. So it goes on to say, I've read the Bible cover to cover many times, as have my colleagues. Your complaints, and this is in parentheses, are they really yours, or have you uncritically accepted third-party gripes? End of parentheses. Are nothing new and have been answered in detail in Is the Bible Evil? Here is a hint to many of these, not all, because the Bible describes something does not mean it condones it.
But if it gives rules for how to do it,
Then
that
it
is
does
by
condone it.
definition condoning it.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
because there are rules to it does not mean it's not condoned. For example, we have laws dictating drinking and alcohol, not drinking and alcohol, god damn it me, drinking and tobacco. Because
Right.
we have laws prohibiting it in uses, say you're underage or driving or whatever, that does not mean we condone it in every use. There are limits to it. There are ways within the law that are condoned to use those substances. The
Right.
fact that it is not straight up illegal means that by definition they are condoned.
Right. That is the definition. And then it goes on to say, here is something else to ponder. If the Bible is such an evil book that is supposedly promotes hate, murder, rape, intolerance, etc., why is it that countries that have been the most influenced by the Bible are those that are the most peaceful, secure, and tolerant? I'd like to know what you
Absolutely
think.
incorrect.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
going to say.
most peaceful nations are the
Are the
least
most
religious
atheistic.
ones.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have
like
Japan, Norway,
Norway. Yeah,
Sweden,
yep,
where they have virtually no crime rate.
yes, yeah. Oh, like, yeah.
And
Oh,
they
well,
are the
okay.
least religious countries on the planet.
Okay, now see, mostly masterful defense of Christianity, pity its slack on creation, review. In contrast, you would not want to live in Stalin's Russia, where atheism was forced on everyone,
Oh
where
god
their
damn it,
their
that one. It
where
was
their
sweet atheism.
their dying had nothing to do with
Not the
atheism.
same
It
as
had
regular
all
atheism.
right. It had all to do with fucking Stalin's fucking
Government.
superhuman view of himself. Yeah,
Yeah, the point
yeah.
of state
It had nothing to
atheism
do with
is to
it had nothing to do
replace.
with atheism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
state atheism
it had,
is the replacement of a god with the government. The
yes,
government becomes God. That is
exactly.
not
That's not atheism.
atheism.
Yeah, no.
They are
Okay, and
two
then it goes on.
totally separate things.
Then it has North Korea, which again, atheism has nothing to do with the way they treat their people. Nothing at all.
They're actually one of the most religious countries on the planet. They think they'll
I,
they
I
think
don't
they'll
know for sure.
they
I
think
don't know
they'll
that for sure.
they
So
think their leader is a deity.
actually, they're a what is it called a necracy or whatever, where the actually they're the who was the first one? There's
Uh,
Kim Jong Il, Kim
Kim
Jong Un, Kim Jong what? What was the first one?
Kim Jong Il. No, Kim
Yeah.
Jong. Yeah, yeah.
Well, anyway, they still
The Coffe.
technically
The
worship. They
Coffe.
technically still to them. He never died. He's still the ruler. The
Yeah,
supreme ruler.
Kim Jong Il is still the head of state.
Yeah, but
Kim
they're
Jong
yeah. He's the
the
ruler.
current Kim Jong is just the acting president.
Yes, exactly. And then
But
it goes on
he
to
is
say,
still
well,
viewed as a god. The entire Kim Jong family, they are deities to
exactly.
them.
It's not the same as atheism. That's just a different form of theism. It's a weird form of theism, but it's still a form of theism. And then there's Saudi Arabia, where the Quran is the dominant influence, or India, where Hinduism enforces poverty on those labeled untouchables, and where to help people most in need of help brings bad karma on you personally, because you're interfering with the law of karma, where the station a person in his life is due to their deeds in a former life, so people do not need to help others, etc. Think about it. Kindness regards John Dutton. What I'm
Okay,
thinking
all
about
of
is they're
their
just pointing fingers at other religions
yeah, it
trying to
was
make
just
Christianity to seem better. That's all I see.
they yeah they were just committing the whataboutism
Yeah,
fallacy. Well,
projecting, projecting, projecting. Once again.
it's not even projecting. It's just, well, what about that? You can't criticize us until you criticize. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is.
those are fine and dandy topics to criticize, but that's not the conversation.
Right, exactly.
The conversation is the Bible, not Russia, not the Quran, not the Hindu
Not the Bhagavad
caste
Gita.
system.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
weren't talking
not
about
the
any of them
Bhagavad Gita,
books.
not the Veda.
We're
It's
talking about the
the
Bible.
Bible.
Exactly.
You don't get to just point your finger and scream, but what about this? Because it doesn't. Who cares? That's not relevant.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Morals. Here's the next one. Morals decline linked to belief in evolution. This one, I'd like to. I'd like some citation on this one. I really would. I bet you there is none. How much you want to bet?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go this entire uh page up until the addendum of no, like, not interrupting you, just letting you speak through this so I can.
All right. I'll read all the way
This.
up until the addendum. Okay. Morals decline linked to belief in evolution. For years, many people have scoffed at any suggestion that the evils in society could be linked with the teaching of the theory of evolution. But new research has confirmed that what Bible believers have known all along, that the rising acceptance of Darwin's theory is related to declining morality in community. The research survey of 1,535 people conducted by the Australian National University revealed that belief in evolution is associated with moral permissiveness. Darwin himself apparently feared that belief in evolution by the common man would lead to social decay. The survey showed that people who believed in evolution were more likely to be in favor of premarital sex than those who rejected Darwin's theory. Another issue which highlighted the contrast between the effect of evolutionary ideas and that of biblical principles was that Darwinians were reported to be especially tolerant of abortion. Oh my. In identifying the primary factors determining these differences in community attitudes, the author of the research report, Dr. Jonathan Kelly, said the single most important influence after church attendance is the theory of evolution. While the newspaper report of the results referred to the moral influence of Darwinian theory on society as being surprising, the findings should not surprise Bible believing Christians. However, many Christians may find disturbing Dr. Kelly's observation that in relation to the age old conflict with evolution, the church and theologians have made their peace with this issue much more than ordinary people have. Bullshit. The survey showed that about 45% of Australians doubted or were not sure if humans evolved via natural selection, as opposed to about 55% who thought this was definitely or probably true. Okay, so we
Okay,
got onto the
so
ad.
right off the bat, I noticed two arguments from authority, and at the end, an argument of popularity. I don't give a fuck. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that. Okay, first off, they did a survey of 1,535 people. That is a very small sample group. Very small sample group.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
might be applicable to like the city that the study was
right.
taken
But
in.
I mean that's way too small of a sample group for them to use that as definitive proof of anything. In my opinion, anyway. What do you guys think?
It's absolutely too small
It's
to
way too small of a group.
to get a to get a to get an accurate survey of 7 billion people. I, honestly, to me, you're gonna need at least 200 or 300 million people to take place in it.
Okay, so I want to know how evolution is leading to the decline of morality. Can you guys in any way see where evolution has any bearing on it at all? What I think it is just a lack of religiosity. It has nothing to do with evolution. People tend to believe in evolution more if they're atheists, true, but there's a lot of Catholics believe in evolution. There's a lot of people that believe in evolution. That doesn't have anything to do with religiosity. I'm tired of
You,
them clumping
you,
evolution in with fucking atheism.
Mo, you gotta remember, the Catholics aren't Christian. They're just
Yeah.
dirty lying atheists.
Oh yeah. Which is funny considering they're the first Christians, to be
Yeah, they
honest.
were the
Yeah,
original.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're the OGs.
Um.
What do you think, Russ?
What do I think about what?
No, what do you think about that first little blurb?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was not even paying attention. I'm trying to learn how to play For Honor.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
How I would recommend learning to play that: take the case and bash it against your head for about 5 hours.
Is it a hard game?
No, but that's just about as fun.
Do what?
How I would recommend learning how to play that game is take the game case and just bash it against your face for like 5 hours.
Yes, because I know
it's just about as fun.
I hear that it's very, very difficult, but I don't care. I've been wanting to play it for a while, so I was like, screw it, let me play it. But then I saw that there was a Hangouts thing on, and I was like, let me see if they're still going. And then I saw that y'all were, and I was like, oh dear,
Look.
oh dear, I've got two things going on now. So,
Well, I can't go very much longer. But I just want to. I'll finish this article up. But okay. So here it goes on. Hong Kong correspondent Paul C. wrote, "I was wondering if I could get a link to the actual paper if you have it. This would be great to show some skeptical friends who refuse to acknowledge any link between Darwinism and atheism. I am one of them. By the way, I find your site a great inspiration for my Christian faith. Keep up the good work." CMI's Dr. David Ketchpool responds, "When writing this article in 2000, I drew upon information provided in a brief report in the Australian newspaper. Publication details provided in footnote 1 in our article, which gave an overview of the researcher's findings. The researcher, Jonathan Kelly, who was at that time stationed at the Australian National University, published his findings in this paper. Kelly J. Australians view the theory of evolution, Social Monitor, and it just tells you it's got some footnotes. I was unable to find any accessible copy online today. However, one can access online PDF scans of page 81 through 90 from a 2002 book by M.D.R. Evans and Jonathan Kelly, Religion, Morality, and Public Policy in International Perspective. And then it just says who wrote it, or the publisher, in which the survey findings are discussed in this section. Australians' views about the theory of evolution, e.g., some key extracts from dot points on page 89 answering the question, what about personal conduct? Does acceptance of Darwin's theory of evolution have any implications for personal moral beliefs? On premarital sex, Darwinians take a substantially more permissive view than do otherwise similar Australians who reject the theory of evolution. And as all prior research on the topic would lead us to expect, atheists and agnostics are more tolerant of abortion than are strong believers. And even aside from the strength of their beliefs, churchgoers are more opposed to abortion than the unchurched. But even
Which
aside
is,
from the religious,
sorry, hold on.
Okay.
Which it's funny because when you look at who has the most abortions per capita, atheists are among the lowest to get to have abortions.
I didn't know that.
Christians are among the highest.
Really?
Yeah, at least within America. I don't know the statistics for other nations. I mean, I'm an American. I tend to focus on statistics for my nation. But moreover than that, why do they insist that we are Darwinists, evolutionists? Like we have some dogmatic following
I don't
to
understand
it.
that, and I want to know why they call it Darwinians. Just because
Darwin's largely irrelevant to evolution.
Yeah, he was just he was the building. Yeah, he was the building blocks, but a lot of what he thought was wrong, and they found out. I mean, he was on the right track, but he got a little bit of stuff,
He wasn't even the father of it. It was already starting to be a thing, like with Lamarckian evolution. People were noticing.
So the way that works is Lamarck had started off with the idea of evolution. However, he had a more of a.
I gotta go to the bathroom, guys. I'll be right back. You guys may discuss this.
He had a more, what's the word? His ideas was more along the lines of something else, which was completely wrong.
Yeah.
Then, when Darwin came along, he had his idea through natural selection, which proved to be the accurate, the better theory. So whenever when we started using that, most of what he said as far as natural selection goes was pretty much on point. He was the one who made the whole entire idea that that due to climate, due to different changes in the surroundings of different
your ecological niche.
yeah, they could be isolated in that they change features and they change all these different little things, characteristics about themselves. And I'm not sure if he ever. I'm not personally sure if he ever had to figure that they could be so isolated from each other that they can no longer breed. But he did know that the more separated they are from the main, like for instance, whenever he went to the Galapagos Islands and he found the finches, and he saw that each island had their finches that were different in shapes and in shapes of the beak structures and whatnot. He knew that because they were isolated from each other, they've changed morphologically that way. Um, and then I think there was already the theory of where whenever it comes to fossil remains of superstition, a superposition or something like that, where it was pretty much the less complex creatures down below, and
Yeah,
as
that
you
was
go higher, the more complex the creatures got.
yeah, that was already an established thing. Um,
Um,
don't when Darwin was writing his book, actually just a short, just like not even a year or so after he released his Origin of Species, there was a book released by oh fuck, I can never remember his name. Um, he some dude in France. Um, Also describing the mechanisms of natural selection. So it was already being absolved and hypothesized by like, hey, this like as species get as groups get more isolated, they change a bit more, but they still all resemble each other. It was definitely overtaking the Lamarckian view of it at the time, which was very much, hey, that thing up there looks really tasty. I'm gonna grow my neck so I can get it. Which, albeit a very infantile view of it, did at least try to explain the natural phenomena of what we saw within the fossil record. Um,
well, and then whenever Darwin had gotten the theory out and everything, they didn't really have what the general populace was saying as the uh, missing link between one creature uh, morphing into another creature, and
yeah, there
where it
obviously when it's
he
sorry,
confessed that as at that point in time in his life, he said we hadn't found one, but he was sure uh, that if his theory were correct, then they would find one. And after a
lo,
year or two of him
yeah,
saying that, they
lo and
started.
behold. Uh,
Yeah.
which, albeit that's a very intellectually honest move he made. Well, even within the Origin of Species book, he wrote how his theory could be disproven. Well, and I see a lot of creationists I actually tend to use that with the example of even Darwin thought the eye was too complex to evolve, where it's like no,
Well,
he's
no,
giving
that
an
one.
example of
Yeah.
hey, I don't understand this thing, but should it be proven to change in any other way or not at all, that would disprove my theorem.
Well,
And
with the eye thing, it was actually he. What he said was that yes, that he did admit that the eye was indeed complex. That it doesn't seem to have happened by natural means, and then he says, but because
yeah,
of this, and then he went on
and
to explain how that what he just said was actually done by natural means.
yeah, like they always leave out that but. They'll give that one quote and then the ellipses. They purposefully quote mine it to make it seem like Darwin did not support his own theory,
Of course.
followed immediately by, oh, but he was a diehard atheist, and of course he would believe this to reject God's authority, some bullshit like that. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, he's being intellectually honest and explaining how something would disprove it. But if he were right, this is how it would work.
And the thing
You
is
know, the thing you do in a scientific paper.
yeah. And one of my biggest issues is that when people sit there and agree with the scientists, they say, I don't understand this, but I trust the scientists. And they're like, uh, what was the word I was?
Well, why? They're
Uh,
fallible men. It's like, well,
and the thing is they're like, if you just use your common sense, you'll know. It's like they don't understand that common sense is not always the most reliable thing. Like, for instance, uh, your common sense tells you that parallel lines never intersect. But the very second you get into more higher up math, parallel lines intersect all the time. And as a matter of fact, they count on them intersecting. So it gets to the
yeah.
point where, there are certain things that you just cannot use your quote
Your
unquote
intuition
common
on.
sense for.
Yeah, like in science, intuition is very much frowned upon because it's intuitive to think, oh, light can move past anything. Then you get to black holes, where it's infinite density in an infinitely small point where not even light can escape. And that intuition simply would say this thing can't exist. Yet
Yeah.
mathematically, it does.
And
Like,
the biggest thing is like and this is why whenever I watched King Crocoduck's debate with Ken Hovind, and Ken Hovind said common sense will tell you this, and
he just
Crocoduck
shut him down
with
because
all due respect, he goes, screw your common sense.
yeah,
Because common sense does not matter when it comes to these issues. And so I just, every time someone, sit there and like, well, common sense would tell you. I actually on Twitter had someone say that to me. They said, you know, if you sit there and notice that all the parameters of life and how they came about, you would just know that, it only makes sense that a designer did this. And I'm like,
bullshit.
when it comes to these matters, you have to screw your common sense.
Yeah, and moreover, I love it when they point out, oh, but the universe is fine tuned. Like, bitch, the universe does not give a fuck about you. You get just a few miles above the surface of the earth, you no longer have enough oxygen to breathe.
Well, the thing is even when, like, Stephen Hawking said that he goes that if the universe is finely tuned for anything,
It's finely tuned for the creation of black holes.
Black holes, yeah, because when you look at it, they're the most abundant thing that's within the universe, and everything that exists in the universe is there to create black holes. Hell, the very second our sun gets here in 4.8 billion years, the sun will finally die and cause a black hole.
Actually, no. Our star doesn't have enough mass. It will become it will become a red giant, and then over time shed its layers to become a white dwarf.
Okay.
You need to have a star of roughly 1.6 to 2 solar masses to become a black hole.
But still, when this happens, we're going to be long gone because our life depends on the sun being the way it is.
Yeah, and sure, there's a tiny chance that as the sun expands, we will be pushed out further. But the solar radiation at that point will still be so strong that it will blast away the magnetosphere and then our entire atmosphere, thus sterilizing the planet should anything still remain on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but moreover from that, it just the whole fine tuning argument. To me, I don't see it ever making sense because, like we already said, the universe does not give a flying fuck about us. It
No.
will kill us within a heartbeat and think nothing about it. But more than that, when you just look at, say, take the creationist odds they give, some 1 in 18 quadrillion or some number like that. There's
Yeah.
plenty enough planets in the universe to fill that. Hundreds of times over. Given the law of the law of very big numbers, statistically, it is guaranteed one planet will develop life. So the chances of Earth becoming how it is today and teeming with life is a probability of one. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
It guaranteed statistically to happen. It so even giving their own numbers, they still fail because of the sheer size of the universe, which it very well could be infinite because anywhere you go in the universe now becomes the center just because of perspective and how space-time itself inflates. So you go 900 million light years this way, well, now it's possible that the universe extends another 900 million light years that way, and we will never see it simply because space-time is expanding so rapidly, the light from those stars will never get to us.
Yeah.
Just
Oh.
so just given that, the creationists still fail just on basic logical arguments, just from and they can't even see it, but yet they act all smug and think that it's like the Trump card, and it's like, no, you you absolute buffoon. Your intuition on this is worthless because Callie, shush. Because we know there was a 100% chance that life arose on Earth. Whether
I,
it
I
be whether it be by biogenesis or abiogenesis, it
right.
arose.
Well,
It-
I think they do know kind of rise. I think it's just the cognitive dissonance and them won't allow them to. They can't allow themselves to admit the truth. You know, I almost the way it sounds is like I don't know. I mean, like they want that something bigger than themselves to believe in because it's terrifying to them to think that this is all we got, and when we die, you're
I mean,
just dead, and
it's
they think that without a god that our lives on earth don't matter at all,
they
but they do
already
matter.
think that. They already think our life is meaningless because what is 70 to 80 years versus
In the
infinity?
infinity, yeah, right, exactly. I said I wasn't going to do another article, but I found one that we got to do. It's pretty funny. It's called the Santa Claus myth versus the God of the Bible. This is funny.
Oh Lord, the level of
Okay,
cognitive dissonance is going to be made.
okay, check this out. Okay, researching the origins of Christian traditions for the celebration of Christmas, I came across this graphic from an anti-theistic source. Its purpose is a not so subtle attempt to denigrate God. The writer has used two images to head his column. The first is easily recognizable as Santa, of course. The second is Michelangelo's image of God as painted on the vault of the Sistine Chapel. Please read the graphic below. Santa versus God. Keeps a list of who's naughty or nice? Check. They both do. All knowing and omnipresent? Check. Long white beard? Check. Taught to children by parents? Check. Generally believed in by children? Check. Not believed in by intelligent adults? Check. Sing songs about? Check. Demand sacrifices, tithes, or cookies? Checks. Has servants or helpers? Checks. Never
Wait,
returns calls? Check.
sorry about that. Quote, Google Hangout crashed.
Did
Oh.
it? Really?
For him, it did.
On my
Oh,
on my
okay.
tablet.
Oh, okay. Never returns calls, checks, said to reward virtue and punish evil, check, and makes sense in any way. Neither one of them win with that one. Has evidence for existence, no proof of either one. Okay. Is there really any difference? Of course there's a difference. So, given the shortage of solid, reasoned responses by Christians to the graphic when it was originally displayed, let's supply these here for each of the items. All reasoning starts with axioms or presuppositions. So, we will seek to know the truth about God from only totally truthful source on this entire planet, the Word of God, aka the Bible. Isn't that odd that the only truthful word about God is in that one book? Makes me wonder just a little bit. Okay, keeping a list is naughty or nice. Scienta. No thinking adult would ever commit to an individual list keeping Scienta or any other sort. He doesn't exist, no matter where the original concept of Santa came from. St. Nicholas, for example, it is a part of Christmas Santa legend that has parents warning children they will not receive anything for Christmas if they misbehave, because Santa's making a list and checking it twice. So, do children believe they will receive nothing even if they have misbehaved? Of course not. And naturally, they receive Christmas gifts even if their behavior for the whole year has been less than perfect. Now, God, He does keep a list who will have a home in heaven with Him. It is called the Lamb's Book of Life, Revelation
It's
2012
it's
and
also a
Philippians 4
book
3.
of people who suck his dick.
Yeah. Being nice is not the condition of entry, just as being naughty does not exclude you. Inclusion in that list is because of God's great mercy. By His grace, through our faith in Jesus, in His finished work, His sacrifice on the cross. So they don't see the similarities there.
Uh,
They don't see the similarities.
no, they don't. But moreover, how can he have great mercy if, by their own admission, most everyone born
Is
ever
a sinner. Is a
will
sinner. They were
be
going to hell.
thrown into hell? That is
Yes.
not mercy. If anything, Santa Claus is more merciful because at least he gives you coal. That you
Right.
can bone that and keep warm.
But
But
actually,
that's
in the
not even
Victorian,
including the
in,
Krampus part
in
of the Santa Claus mythos.
yeah, in the Victorian era, they probably would have loved to have coal, so they cook their food. All right. Okay.
Exactly.
So, all
Santa
knowing
Claus is
and
objectively better.
yeah, all knowing and omnipresent Santa. What odd attributes to assign to a mythological figure? That's fucking ironic. It's
Oh, that's
true, he
funny.
exists in cultural stories throughout the world, has many different names, some unique alleged powers, and takes many different forms. Wait, who else does that sound like? Okay,
Ah,
who else
who does
exists
sound
in
like?
cultural stories throughout the world, has many different names, some unique alleged powers, and takes many different forms? Who is it that I'm thinking that's like that? Oh yeah, God! All right. In Western tradition, he has developed into this astounding character who knows about the deeds of billions of children simultaneously. He is supposedly capable of traveling all over the globe and down billions of chimneys within one night. So, although all powerful is not mentioned as a Santa characteristic in the graphic, this would make him a remarkably powerful individual indeed. In any case, these claims are rarely formulated in such extravagant terms. All this is an attempt to belittle God and to denigrate attributes that are His alone. I'm pretty
Well,
sure when
you
they
know,
came up with Santa, that wasn't their thinking behind it. I'm going to denigrate
well,
God.
Saint Nicholas was a saint.
Yes,
It
hence
was,
the name Saint Nicholas.
but moreover, yeah, it kind of is used to denigrate God. That's the fucking point of it now.
Well, now it
Just
is, but I mean, I'm talking about at the time. I don't think it was to denigrate God. Okay, so now here's God. Unlike Santa, God has many different names. Didn't they just say Santa had many different names that relate to his overall character and attributes? And
I
these
don't
remain
know. I
constant
mean, Yahweh,
and are
Jehovah, Elohim.
Yeah, and
Those are
these
three right off
remain
the top of my head.
constant and they're in no way culturally related. Oh, really? So Shiva and Allah and Zeus and Odin, them aren't fucking culturally related? Still a god. There are too many to list here, but for the purpose of this discussion, we will elaborate on the three attributes already loosely alluded to under this heading: omniscience, omnipresent, and omnipotent. God alone has the rightful claim to these three attributes. So fuck you, Santa Claus. All right, omniscience, a big word that implies means there's nothing God does not know. Nothing. Scary
So
thought.
therefore we
Indeed,
have no
it
free will.
is. Not only does God know if you've been naughty, but he also knows when you're going to be naughty again, and you are the only one of how many billion people on this planet today? And yes, this applies to each and every person. Jeremiah the prophet recognized this truth. Great in counsel and mighty indeed, whose eyes are open to all the ways of the children of men, rewarding each one according to his ways and according to the fruit of his deeds. Santa, strike one. That sounds exactly like Santa. And as far as if God knows everything or knows if I'm going to be naughty again, how can there be any true Christian in this entire world? How?
How can there be any free will? If he
Right,
knows exactly what we are going to do, we're just puppets.
right. Yeah.
If
Once again,
if they want us to have free will, God cannot, by virtue of simple definitions, be omniscient. He cannot. The two are mutually exclusive terms. If you know everything, every possible version of reality, you know exactly what actions someone is going to take. He knew before even creating the universe just who exactly was going to hell, how
yes.
they were going to be tortured.
Why did he create the universe in that way? If he's omniscient and omnipotent, that
And
means
omnibenevolent.
he could have created the universe to make us where we didn't sin, but yet he did anyway. So
Yeah,
how
and
is he a good guy again?
I
So
always hear the question, oh, but how would you know good if there was no evil? I don't know, but I'm not omniscient. Could God have created a universe where we have free will, but evil does not exist?
if he's
Yes,
God, then absolutely he should have been able to.
absolutely. But he didn't. That shows, at least to me, that he is a monster that relishes in well over 100 billion human souls roasting alive right now for all eternity for simply not sucking his dick.
Right, exactly. Okay, and then the next one is omnipresent. Another big word that simply means God is everywhere, really everywhere. King David leaves us no doubt about that. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or well,
Then,
where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your
so
right hand shall hold me. This is
why
the only a small part, and the whole psalm is worth reading. It covers God's omnipresence beautifully.
so
Um,
why is it in with Sodom and Gomorrah he did not know what was happening though? He had to go he had to
yes.
physically go there.
Okay. Or even go back further. Why in Eden did he have to ask where Adam was? Shouldn't he
Yeah,
know where Adam was?
you were literally inside of him as you speak that.
Right. Why? So why does he have to ask questions? Why? And okay. And if God knows the answer to everything, why does he have to tempt everybody like Job and he had Satan tempt Jesus? If he knows everything, all that stuff is totally worthless. It's all totally
Exactly.
worthless.
He already knows the angels are. And I love
If,
that when they say, oh, he's testing your faith. Bullshit. He already knows what will
okay,
happen.
if God is okay, I can see that with humans, but what about Jesus? If Jesus is God, why was God testing his own faith? Remember,
Exactly.
why was God testing his own faith?
I don't know. Maybe he
He's
started to doubt he was God.
yeah, he was bored.
The reality of the matter was starting to get him. The Dunning-Kruger was no longer working.
That's hilarious. And then there's omnipotent. Okay, and yes, it is as well as the word does not appear in the graphic and it is not therefore attributed to Caesar. Listen to Isaiah's record of God's own claim of his divine strength and power, using the starry heavens as just one example of his creative work. To whom then will you compare me, that I should be like him, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and see. Who created these? He who brings out their host by number, calling them by name. By the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, not one is missing. Isaiah 40, 25, 26. And Jesus
Cool
said,
story,
with
bro.
man,
Needs more dragons.
right, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Seeing a strike three, you're out. So then it goes on to long white beard. They compare taught to children by parents.
And
Um,
I don't know, like I draw objection to the heavens attest to his strength. Yeah, well, Doctor Who created another Big Bang. So did the Doctor is the Doctor a god? Um, then you just have a case of what was the last bit you said?
which one?
Uh, just before I started to talk, the
Oh,
last sentence.
and Jesus said, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible.
Okay, I can guarantee you the most devout man on the planet could not go to a mountain and say, jump 5 feet in the air, and it would jump. That is a thing that I can imagine. That is not a thing I can imagine happening.
Right.
Just the phrase "through all things God apart," it's absolute rubbish. It's bollocks.
You know what
Because
I think is funny is
simply looking at reality, all he says is you need the faith the size of a fucking mustard seed, and
right,
nothing will be impossible for you.
right.
Then why
I
the
like
fuck are people starving?
is itchy boss. It's a good question. I was going to say the same thing. Um, it says all gods seem to have the same attributes as men. I wonder why. Isn't that funny that an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being would have human characteristics? Why would a powerful being be jealous of anything? Why would an all powerful being get mad at anything? Why would an all power none of them things would work if God was what he claims to be. Benevolent
Exactly.
is surely not one of them.
They're self-contradictory. It simply falls back into the case of the ancient Hasidic Jews simply taking bits and pieces of other religions, cultures, and other cultures' religions, and adapting them into their own. I mean, for example, the Pentateuch, the original 5 books of the
Yeah, that's like,
Torah,
yeah, yeah,
hint more towards a pantheon, because you have Yahweh in the when he is um, incorporeal, where he walks through nature, and El when he is walking among the Jews in the flesh. And then you also have cases where they refer to him as Elohim, which is a plural. So now you have a case of multiple deities walking through their camps. And as who left? Okay, okay. Um,
I mean, I'm here.
yeah, I didn't know if it dropped for me again. And as you have it, as the Pentateuch progressing, it progressively gets more and more monotheistic. But even then, they still accept all the way up into fucking Exodus that other pantheons of gods exist and all real. You have God saying that he will judge the gods of Egypt. That is
Right.
not something
It,
you would say if you were
yeah.
the only God and you knew that.
Exactly. Like
These
when
are
God said,
false gods.
right.
You don't
Why?
judge false gods.
Right. Why would one of the Ten Commandments not to put any gods before me if he was the only God?
Exactly. It's a non-starter. It doesn't make any logical sense. And it
No, not at
points that
all.
the people
The
that
only way it
follow this
makes
don't even understand how the religion evolved.
the only
Because it
way
very clearly shows that these people were not monotheistic. They were an
right.
early
Exactly.
hybrid. They were an early hybrid of polytheism and monotheism. They were
Right.
making that transition over to it because correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Judaism was the first monotheistic religion, at least as we define it. Because you had Akhenaten with animism, where he outlawed worship of all the gods, but I want to say Ra. Like they were still acknowledged as gods, they were just illegal to worship.
Right. Right.
They were still a pantheon, which that I guess you could kind of consider that a monotheism because you were saying these gods aren't deserving of any worship. They are deserving of their deific status.
Right. Right. So yeah, I don't get it. But it's been a little over 2 hours. I got some stuff to do. Sunday, I'm having my normal Sunday moles like Unholy Moles coffee and anti-church stream. This Sunday, I'm thinking about talking about if anybody knows how to get VLC to work on OBS, hit me up and let me know because there's a video I want to respond to and I can't figure out how to get VLC to play on OBS, so I can pause it.
Do you have a program called Rabbit?
I think I might still have Rabbit downloaded. I'll look,
Um,
but
if you do, I know you can stream that to YouTube, and it's a video sharing site to where
mhm.
you can play videos,
Yeah.
pause it, whatever.
Well, I know you
Um,
can play videos through VLC on OBS. I just don't know how to do it.
okay.
So, yeah, you're exactly right, Red. I think Zoroastrianism was the first monotheistic religion. So, sorry you're late, CT, but Sunday, normal time, 9 o'clock. Um, I'm gonna. We got a couple days to think about it, but I was thinking about. I want to try to figure out how we can respond to this video, or maybe I'll just watch part of it and I'll tell you what video I'm watching, so whoever's coming can watch part of it too, and we can discuss it. The video I wanted to was talking about how the how all the flood myths from around the world and blah 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 prove that there is the one and only God, and I think it'd be a fun thing to respond to. If I can't get VLC to work though, we can at least talk about flood myths around the world and how different religions, how we think different religions may have formed. So that will be Sunday's episode. So, like I said, I'll get a hold of everybody. In my most of you are in the Mole's coffee stream. If you're not, you're in Neil's usual suspects. So I'll catch you in one or the other. I'd like to thank you all for coming. If you're not subbed, please do. I'm one away from 270. Someone help me out, man. Someone help me out. Do you want to show yourself at all? Do you have a channel or anything, Rise?
It's a gameplay channel right now. I'm trying. That's why I'm trying to get a laptop so I can actually start to do uh response videos. But until then, unless y'all like to see someone get drunk while playing Destiny, um,
Right.
if you do enjoy that, it's the same as my name, Rise to A's. Has the same avatar. It's Animal Vegetable Mineral Man from DC's Doom Patrol as the avatar. Um, but until I get a computer, it's really just focused on PS4 gameplay. It's nothing spectacular. In fact, most of the time it's actually downright disgusting.
Thanks, Lizzie. I hope you can get your thing to work better next time. I want to thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, Rise, for coming on.
Oh, no problem.
And like I said, Sunday, normal time, 9 o'clock. If you guys want to come and check it out, or if you have any ideas for the Sunday show, hit me up in Twitter, and we can figure out a topic for Sunday's show. You guys all have a lovely day or evening, depending on where you be in the world. And I'll see you heathens later. Bye bye.